$600,000 per year, $50,000 per month from a vending company. How much are you really going to make when you have a vending company of that size? I'm going to break down every single piece of it so that you have a better understanding of how much money you can make in vending. Who am I? I'm James Brown, a former vending executive of one of the largest portfolios of vending machines in the world. And I've seen every part of vending from non-profitable to profitable. And I've looked at numerous businesses from small to large. Let's get into it. To the spreadsheet we go. And so this is for $600K vending revenue per year, 75 to 100 machines, somewhere in the $300,000 to $400,000 investment in capital for the machines you're going to need to generate this revenue. So first is building costs. I went and looked at about what 1,000 square foot, like very basic warehouse would cost, right? Think of it like more as like a bay, no office space or anything, includes utilities, somewhere around $1,500 a month, which is $18K per year. To service those machines, one full-time employee. Although if you're a real go-getter and you can work long hours, you could actually do this by yourself. I've seen drivers that, pretty consistently can do 200 machines, like a 200 machine route by working, 5 days a week. However, those people are not running a business, right? So it's much lower than that for a person that's actually running a business, buying the product, doing the accounting, doing all the fixing of the machines, everything else. So, you probably need at least half a person, let's say, to do this, unless you're working crazy man hours. General liability insurance, right? Protecting yourself against anything that goes wrong and having like fire and water, probably a couple $1,000s a year. And then vehicles, right? 100 miles per day, 5 days a week, 260 days. And it's about 1 mile or $1 per mile driven. I think this is actually fairly conservative depending on what you have. It could be more. So it's going to cost you about $26,000 a year to drive to these vending machines when you consider gas and oil, the insurance on them, burning through tires, repairs on the vans. Better buy a Toyota Prius. I'm joking. Not enough storage, but you need to get something reliable. And yeah, it's gonna cost you a lot more than you think just to drive places. Product cost, and this one is huge. And I talk about this a lot. I see Reddit threads and various advice online, and people who don't really know what they're talking about saying, "Oh yeah, just add 30-40% on." You have to go minimum double, right? You have to go minimum double so that when you sell 600K, it only costs you 300K. If you go up even 10 or 15% in product cost from this, or on the flip side, if you price things too low, you just can't make any money at vending. Like you cannot. You have to at least double what something costs you when you vend it, and sometimes triple or more, right? You have to think about something called value perception, right? You sell a big grab bag of chips and it costs you 50 cents, try and get $2.50 for it, right? This is how you make real money in vending. You don't underprice yourself. Number one rookie mistake people make, they don't price their products high enough. Then you've got to have payment processing, right? Credit cards, debit cards, all that kind of stuff. And you've got to pay for the information through a vending company, or sorry, not through a vending company, through a provider, right? Who provides like a VMS, like a Nayax, a Cantaloupe, a 365, any of that, right? Altogether, I've got it at about 6%, which I think is pretty reasonable. And you may say to yourself, well, I'm just going to go cash then. I'm not going to use credit card. Well, if you don't use credit card, you'll never be able to get the good accounts. You'll only be able to get the bottom feeders, like the small towing companies, that, just random things that don't make you a lot of money. So in the long run, it will actually mean you can't scale to the level that you want to scale at, because to really scale quickly requires bigger accounts. Like think of how long it takes you to get to $1 million landing one account at a time that makes you $4,000 a year, right? You got to land 250 accounts versus landing a handful at a few $100,000 each. So this, even though you may be thinking, well, I don't want to use credit card services or payment processing, you kind of have to. This is a real cost. Commissions at 10% on average. This is a very good average. If you're lower than this, you're either a wizard at sales, and please comment and message me if you are, and you've done way better than this at any sort of scale above like 50 machines, because it means you're doing something right. And I'd love to pick your brain. But I've looked at a lot of different vending companies, and most are not even at 10% on average. They're actually higher than that. So 10% is a good number. It's much easier to have zero commission at Randy's Towing. I don't know why I'm always picking on the towing companies. I think I have some bad memories about towing companies or something. Anyways, at Randy's Towing, you might be able to get 0% commission, but you try and go after any good university, hospital, anything like that, you'll never get below 10%. No, pretty much never. The next is machine parts and repairs. Vending machines break down, and they break down quite a bit. I mean, it's not an uncommon thing. And so you're going to have to carry parts. You're going to have to go and repair machines. You got to drive to site, right? And what I didn't even include is if you don't get on this quickly and repair things, these machines then don't make you revenue, right? So the cost could actually be much higher overall on average. Professional services like accountants, and I recommend get an accountant. If you're at anywhere near this size, you better have an accountant. And it might even be more than that. Like I think I'm actually pretty conservative on that. And then food spoilage. New vending operators, they very often do not consider how much food is actually going to spoil. World class is under 2%. Somewhere between 1 and 2% is world-class vending. So I've put it at the upper range of world-class. This could be as high as 5%, 10% if you're really bad, right? So fairly conservative there as well. This number could actually be quite a bit higher. So in this particular scenario, there's $505,000 in expenses out of $600K. Then you take tax, right? And depending how you structure things, whether you're incorporated or not, tax numbers can vary quite a bit. I put it at a pretty low number because you're going to have to take some money to keep your lifestyle going at 12%. And this could honestly be 20%, right? Conservative estimates, your take home is going to be $83,600, which is a net profit of 14%. Most large vending companies are not even this high. They're not even in double digits. If you get to 1,000 machines, you'll be lucky if you take home 7 or 8. Somewhat of a bit of a made up number just from an amalgamation of all the different companies I've looked at. But somewhere in that range is quite good, right? Vending, it requires quite a bit of scale to really start making good money, right? But if you get to 500 machines, start thinking about how much money you take home if you keep your margins pretty close to the same, right? Maybe you add one driver, maybe you can still operate out of the same building, right? Your of course, vehicles and gas and stuff go up. So maybe you go from 14% down to 12 or 11 when you get to 500 machines, but you're still making dramatically more money, right? So you have to be thinking about scaling if you really want to make this work. And that's what I help people with. I've got a Skool community where I teach all of these things. I teach you how to get accounts. I help with financing. I help with buying machines. I help you optimize your machines so that they sell the most that they can sell per visit, right? Units filled per visit is really going to help you drive less. If you can service your machines half as often, but they make the same amount of money and you just pick up more money per visit, that's really good for your profitability, right? And then the other thing I did want to mention here too is product cost. If you can get product cost down or you just price really high, this is where your greatest opportunity to make money is. And that's something that I have extensive experience with as well. And then let's go to just a few miscellaneous things for you to think about that could affect this number even in a negative way.
Oh,
And I don't want you to be discouraged. I think vending is a great industry to be in. It gives you a ton of freedom and flexibility and the ability to pursue your financial dreams. However, you don't want to spend years trying to figure this stuff out because a lot of it is not intuitive, right? It's unintuitive. You don't understand these things unless you get some help. And that's what I can help with. And then, so like coin counters, right? You got to count a lot of cash. These things break down all the time. They are completely unreliable. And to buy a new one, they're incredibly expensive. And then there's banking fees for coins and cash handling, right? If you want an armored truck pickup, which at a certain size, you better be getting an armored truck pickup or you're probably risking a few things, right? Say you had to finance some of these machines that you bought. You probably have machine loan interest. You've got your marketing time and money tied up in that when you're trying to land new accounts, right? Theft. If you have a driver, they're probably stealing from you unless they're a really good friend of yours or something like that. But if they're a person you hired, you can almost guarantee that they are stealing it from you at some point. I'm sorry if that makes some people mad. It's just that is definitely what I have observed in all my years in vending. They're just saying in vending, all your drivers are stealing from you. And then break-ins, right? You're not counting for people breaking into your machines, which at 50 to 100, or sorry, 75 to 100 machines sitting out there in the world, you're going to get a few break-ins a year, almost guaranteed. So this is like an actual true cost that isn't worked into here because I don't know where your machines are, whether they're in safe locations or not. And I didn't really want to put it into the calc, right? Doesn't include taking money that you've made to invest in growing the business or upgrading the tech, right? Maybe you have old machines in this machine set and you need to put a refurb vendors exchange door on them or something, like upgrade the technology, upgrade the devices. Maybe you've got old cashless devices that are having connectivity issues, right? Signage, all these random other things. So go into vending with your eyes wide open and don't spend years trying to figure it out by yourself. Get some help. You're watching these videos already, which is a great first step. Come see me, ask me questions. In the description and the pinned comment, I'm going to have links to my LinkedIn, to my email list, and to my Skool community, which is growing by the day.